So we'll go ahead and get started. Again, thank you for joining us. I'm Bree Kruder with ProLink. This is our ProLinkHFA webinar, and we're going to be covering our implementation methodology today. So looking forward to leading you through that with my special guests, which are going to be announced in just a minute. For our agenda today, we're first going to cover just general information about ProLink. For those who may not be engaged with us regularly, we'll introduce ourselves to you and then head right into our business presentation for the majority of our time, so 45 minutes total. We're going to cover requirements and scope, organizational change management, technical considerations, resources and schedule, customer success, and then touch on executive sponsorship and champions selection is all considerations that are highly important as you're considering or going through a large implementation for your affordable housing business. So this is ProLink specific, but also I think in general, there's a lot of takeaways that would be transferable regardless of who your technology vendor is. These are all just very important pieces to consider. So with that being said, I'm Bree Kruder. I'm the Executive Vice President for ProLink. I'm joined by Dee Pucciarelli, who's our Director of Customer Success with ProLink. And then we have two special guests with us. We have Carl Rotella, who's the Director of Information Technology for Rhode Island Housing. And then Lenore Coughlin, is that how you say your last name?
Coughlin, but I've been called worse.
Okay. I didn't check with you before. And she's the Multifamily Housing Compliance Manager for Rhode Island Housing. So thank you guys so much for being here with us. We're very excited to have you share your point of view, having recently gone through an implementation with ProLink. So before we get started, we're going to just go over some housekeeping. This webinar series is a monthly occurrence, so we do it starting the first Wednesday of each month in February, going through October. We generally present a business case, and then a lot of times we'll do a software demo too. I'm not doing that today though. This is really kind of more on the business topic side of things. So we tried our best to kind of cover a variety of topics. This year is a little bit different from the last couple of years that we've been hosting these webinars. We are going to be featuring themes on a quarterly basis. So our theme for kind of the Q1 period is implementation and adoption best practices. So February through April, that will be the focus of these sessions. Towards the summer, going into May and July, we're going to focus on reporting solutions and some of the updates we'll be making within our systems to cover things like average income test and other highly important and getting a lot of kind of attention in areas of reporting. And then we will move into compliance updates and best practices August through October. So then in November, we usually host our annual user group conference, which is open to everybody. And December, January, we take off, we get prepped for the next year. So thank you for joining, and I hope you continue to stick with us through the series. Introducing you to ProLink, or reminding you who we are. So we've been in the affordable housing industry since 1998, founded in 1998, started working with our state housing agencies in 2004, and have continued to support state and local housing agencies, tax credit syndicators, and investors and developers in their affordable housing portfolio management. So our goal is to build holistic tools to support the full life cycle of your business process. And we work with a team of technologists who, we have a lot of tenure in the affordable industry at this point, having been around for as long as we have, and being tailored to the affordable industry. We've developed a lot of kind of expertise out of our technical resources that we have on board. So they are the ones who are supporting our clients through the implementation phase and then all the way through their customer success relationship with us. Okay, there we go. So quickly just covering some of the highlights about us. So you can see a number of little points listed on the lower part of the screen. We do support 17 state housing finance agencies and 2 supportive services agencies with ProLinkHFA today. Partnerships with industry leaders like NCSHA and NAMA are very important to us, and we're very active with those. That's probably, if you aren't a client of ours, that's where you've seen us and heard us and spoken to us in the past. Industry education has certainly ticked up and been a bigger focus for us through virtual life and, post-COVID, with offering webinars such as this. And our user conference, now opening that up virtually to everybody. And then as much as we can, we like to involve and include large technology solutions like Amazon Web Services and DocuSign into the offerings that we provide across our product group. So DocuSign is something that is currently integrated with our ProLink Plus tool supporting the Homeowner Assistance Fund. We use a bunch of the Amazon Web Services across all of our products to support what we do. So across the board, trying to do the best, be very kind of purpose-built and utilize the tools and partnerships around us to make us stronger together. And then this is just a little bit of more of a visual of the reach across the 19 agencies that we are supporting, almost touching coast to coast here. So proud of that and looking forward to continue to expand our footprint and our user group, which is the real benefit of supporting as many states as we have. This is the slide I call the bird's eye view slide, and it's meant to just orient everyone to the way that our products work. ProLinkHFA is the backend database tool that we offer, and it always comes with Procorum, which is our front-end portal system that we offer our clients. It's a platform where developers, contractors, property managers, any kind of third party is interacting and communicating with our agency clients. So between that communication mechanism through Procorum for gathering and sending information back and forth, and that database of record that you have with ProLinkHFA, we also have a Smart Docs tool that allows you to get and send information through Excel and Word. That combination of things is what we call our ProLinkHFA product suite. And here's a quick picture of the modules included in ProLinkHFA. So this is what Rhode Island Housing has spent quite a bit of time, over a year now, engaged with us in going live and implementing this in their organization and going live. And they have adopted the full base product suite of ProLink. So we have our multifamily development and bond financing module, asset management and compliance. We also have a single family development module, and then a few other kind of sub-modules or other functionality that we've built that we'd like to highlight is our supportive services, REO and Budget Pro tool, which is a draw request portal in Procorum. So that is kind of a summary level of our base product suite and the modules within. With that overview, I'm going to go ahead and get us into the meat of today's topic. So thinking about our implementations, there's another kind of reiterating what I said at the beginning with our agenda. We're going to cover our requirements and scope, organizational change management considerations. CJ or Carl is going to go over our technical considerations from his point of view. Lenore is going to help us kind of go through and lessons learned, their experience with resources and schedule considerations. And then I will wrap up with a little bit of a glimpse into customer success and what Rhode Island can look forward to entering into now that they're live and finishing up their heightened support period with us, as well as the importance over all of this at the very top, leadership, sponsorship, executive sponsorship, and establishing those champions in a project like this. So Dee, I'm going to hand it off to you to cover those requirements and scope considerations.
Okay, thanks, Bree. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining our online webinar. My name is Dee Pucciarelli, and today I want to chat about how certain elements of your requirements can impact your scope and why it's important to consider this during your software implementation. We all know that when it comes to software implementation, your requirements will dictate the scope, and these requirements will impact the schedule and resources allocation, among other things. Our main goals or objectives during the software implementations are to make your operational processes more efficient, have a faster resolution, for your processes to be scalable, and to increase the quality of your processes. This often means that you need to take a deep dive into your current processes, workarounds and tools to determine challenges, areas of improvements, and training opportunities. As part of your RFP or business case development, agencies are increasing their due diligence efforts by deep diving into their current processes, mapping them, and doing process improvements evaluation prior to software selection. In a perfect world, where we don't have any budget or deadlines constraints, this approach usually works if you have all the time that you need in the world. But that's not the case. In our experience, successful implementations are achieved by those agencies that include their process improvements efforts as part of their software implementation. And they understand that they need more than a software provider, that the agencies have the right partner to help them achieve their goals. A partner that understands the level of commitment, the time, the effort, and resources required to make your implementation a success and provide the support you need after your rollout, after you go live. Let's go over some of the activities that you should consider when evaluating and deciding the scope of your implementation. First, the review and evaluation of your current processes, the identification of challenges and process improvements opportunities. This is where you need to pay extra attention to your requirements and the scope impact that these requirements are going to have. Are you evaluating your processes for process improvements, or are you thinking of taking your as-is process and implement it into your new software? Each approach has a different impact to the scope and the schedule to your implementation. You should also consider the development and implementation of your to-be processes and your software adoption strategy. Having a software adoption strategy is key to the success or failure of your implementation. I cannot even begin to tell you how important it is to have that software adoption strategy to make sure that you account for that during your scope and your software implementation. The user adoption is one of the primary drivers of your ROI, maximizing your business benefits, increasing quality, and your operational efficiency. This is why it's so important for agencies to select the right business partner and include process improvements and software adoption efforts as part of the software implementation, and understand the impact that this will have in your successful rollout. Let's move on now onto the organizational change management strategy part. Thanks, Bree. Sometimes companies get so deep into the technical and financial aspects of your software implementation that often forget how important the people side of the equation is to truly have a successful software implementation and adoption that will result in the ROI and the benefit realization that you as a company are expecting for a significant investment. The people side of the equation, better known as organizational change management and software adoption, should not be an afterthought. It should be part of your business case, and it should be part of your RFP process. It is critical, and cannot stress it again. This is super important that you know how this is going to impact the success of your software implementation. An organizational change management strategy addresses the people side of the successful implementation. It takes time, effort, and a strong executive support to ensure not only that your software is implemented properly from a technical perspective, but that also is adopted by your staff and customers. And I know when I talk about usually when I talk about organizational change management strategy, the question that most people ask or the comment that they made to me is, that sounds like a lot of time and additional expenses, unnecessary work. And they asked me, can just the executive basically dictate? Can I just send a communication that simply tells the staff, you should do this and you should adopt it, and that should be enough? I still only need a communication plan. The answer to that is no, that is not sufficient. That is not the right way to do your software implementation and make it a success. So sorry to inform you that the lack of adoption, the staff burnout, the resistance are the primary reasons why companies notice that a year after the rollout, that their software is not being utilized as intended, impacting their performance, the quality, the ROI, and the benefit realization. And you might find yourself back where you started, probably looking to a new software or wondering what happened. The implementation went so well. There are 3 items that you should consider when planning your software implementation. Your software provider should incorporate organizational change management and software adoption as part of their implementation and rollout. If they don't talk to you about those 2 topics, then this is a technical implementation, and you should bring that up. If they do, what type of methodology do they use, or what type of methodology they recommend? There is a way to do this, and there are multiple methodologies out there. Doesn't mean that you're going to stick to one. You can, create a hybrid and create your own, but you should have one. And then finally, are there any additional costs for change management and software adoption activities or consulting? So those are the 3 elements that you should ask your software provider when looking for one. And don't forget that it's important that your executive and leadership team understand the importance of their involvement and public support. This is, to say it, nicely, as an executive, you should support your software implementation. You should voice it publicly. You should support not only your executives, your champions, but your end users need to understand how important this is for them, but it's also, for the organization, for the company as a whole. And doing this publicly is key to your successful rollout of your implementation and software adoption. Also, the impact and change saturation level of the organization, the departments, the business units, and the staff. When you are looking at your new software implementation, think about those. How big is the impact? Can they handle it? How this is going to impact the schedule? So this is all that I have. If you're intrigued and want to know more about organizational change management and your software adoption as it relates to your implementation, don't forget to join us in our next webinar where we are going to go deeper into this topic.
Great, thank you. All right, CJ, I'm going to hand it right off to you.
Thank you, Bree and Dee. So I'm going to try to bring together where the technical considerations that Rhode Island Housing used when we were implementing the software change and the number of impact that it took across the organization, both from a business development side, a asset management side, and the IT side. All of those areas were included, and we came out with a data plan that we wanted to roll across the whole 3 organizations. So it was clear from the beginning as we started to implement this that the ProLink people really helped in laying out not only our business processes, what data was going to be coming from what different area, and what types of reports were going to come into those areas from the actual data migration, and then from all new processes going forward. So that effort took all three teams being together, in meetings a couple times a week to make sure that we were mapping the processes correctly and adding the data migration points that were going to take place. And again, we had done this with all three business units at the same time. So the responsibilities inside those business units were to have the managers and the key people who were going to own it at the end of the delivery be part of that in the design, the implementation, and the questions were able to come out in the beginning, so we weren't trying to chase data problems at the end. In our data migration efforts, we were able to use our data warehouse and a few of our other ancillary applications to go back 10 years and actually migrate 10 years worth of data into it so that we were beginning with a good data footprint that we wanted to build on for the rest of the future of both our development team and our asset management team. And then, if you don't bring it to the right levels and having those people involved, you will have garbage in and garbage out. There's many organizations that I've worked for in the past where we might not have had the best data plan going into it. And I'm hoping that I brought some of that experience to our event here at Rhode Island Housing, so that we didn't have garbage in and garbage out into the actual product and having to clean it up later. So one of the things that I know Lenore will talk about is Lenore is on the asset management side, and they are really the people that are going to live with it forever, right? So we made that clear at the executive level. We made that clear at the data management level that we wanted to go through and make sure that those pieces of data that were in there were actually the ones that we expected in there, that they were validated, and as all data migration, you are going to find holes and really focus on, the 4 and 5% instead of everything trying to fix all of it at once. So we were able to go and clean that up before we got to rollout. That effort continues to go on. It's not going to go away. And we built the model so that, we can review that monthly and to continue that going forward so that we don't have problems when we get to HUD reports and things in the future. So finally, we are leaving our legacy systems in place for probably a year to make sure that we have everything the way that we expect it. As we get into 2023 and start to really roll out throughout the middle of this year and next year, we'll start to bring those down and put those in read-only mode, our other legacy systems, including spreadsheets and my favorite, Smartsheet, and a few of those other things that people have tucked on their laptop that nobody can ever find. Those are the things that will all go away. We are going to really take a hard look at really shutting those things down and making them read-only going forward so that we have consistency and data validation. And when we're reporting at the executive level and at the state level and at the federal level, those numbers are all consistent with real definitions that are consistent across all three organizations. So as we brought in the executive team, one of the things that they were sponsoring this for was they wanted to have dashboards and reporting that were, consistent at all of our board meetings. We have board meetings every month. Those numbers have to be consistent and reported on at the state level. So, we were bringing that across 2 divisions, plus the data warehouse, plus finance, and we probably had 7 departments involved in this. So at this level, all that reporting will be consistent going forward. That doesn't stop the operation at each department from doing their daily and weekly and monthly things that they need to do. Go out and do inspections, check to make sure they have the availability of resources for doing construction and those type of things. And those are all done right within the ProLink application, HFA. It has very nice data views that you can configure for your particular department or team. And then that rolls up to a nice standard dashboard. So everyone's kind of on the same page. And then finally, we all know that on Tuesday, the executive will come in and say, I need this report Thursday morning. So ad hoc reports is to make sure that each of your teams have people who are capable of doing that at the manager level, and then of course at the department level. And that's really helped us out. We're looking forward to really getting those reports over this next coming quarter and being consistent with that. If there's anything that comes up on your side that you need any technical help or questions, feel comfortable in reaching out to a ProLink, and I'm sure they'll find me somewhere around the area here.
Thank you, CJ. That's great. We appreciate that. All right, Lenore, we're moving on to you.
Thanks, Bree. So most of the attendees here, I think, are from the HFAs, and the life of an HFA staff member is never really boring, right? Those of us with a background in property management probably thrive on that kind of setting. But a software implementation is a completely different beast, especially if you're one of the lucky folks attending what you assume is all of the meetings. On top of your regular workload, you'll be faced with learning what I call the bone structure of ProLink, and then you'll eventually understand how to get it to stand up on its own after figuring out how the pieces fit together to create this moving machine. The data that goes in creates networks of the rest of the anatomy. Affordability periods are kind of like the muscles, because that's where you flex. The XML files and the tenant events are kind of like the circulatory system. They're the fluids pumping through the compliance engine of that heart that keeps everything going. And the nerve endings are different ancillary programs for my own personal reasons. So the impact of the schedule to an HFA employee assigned to this project is significant. ProLink goes through this all the time, but we don't. In the beginning of the implementation project, I really thought that I'd be investing a few hours a week and that would be enough. I didn't know that the business lead of my division would appoint me as a subject matter expert. And my availability went from investing those few hours a week I mentioned into only spending a few hours a week on my real job. And then the balance went into ProLink. So it's going to be up to the business lead to know their staff and assign them to whatever roles are best during a project like this. The subject matter experts will be relied upon to attend meetings, review materials like process maps and data tables. And Rhode Island's a small state. We don't have a huge number of properties, but the data was never written properly into our previous software. We didn't have all of the puzzle pieces in the same box. They were in databases, like CJ said, they were in databases I've never seen and in a network of smart sheets that I've created over the years. But hey, those were challenges we knew about. And so we've listed COVID here as an unforeseen challenge. I know. It's 3 years after it started. But my staff was tasked with catching up on inspections at the other end of the COVID waiver period. Home had to be done by June 30th of last year. Tax credit had to get restarted by July 1st. And essentially beginning on April 1st last year, we were back on the road full time, making up for 2 years of lost time in just under 3 months. If you're thinking to yourself that we should have seen that coming, yes, you're right. We performed as many remote file reviews during that waiver period as we could, so that the workload was mostly physical inspections, at least on the home side, by the time we picked back up. But 30% of my team was brand new in the first week of April. Out of our 10 asset managers, we had 3 that first week of April, one of which was brand new to overseeing our ancillary portfolio with the home HTF CMF. So on top of the ProLink implementation, training new employees, catching up on inspections, I also had a medical procedure in mid-June. I was out of work for a couple of weeks. When I came back, I could barely talk for another 6 weeks. So you don't know what you don't know, If I could have told myself a year ago to learn how the tenant data comes in on XML files and which fields would actually count, we would have had a little bit of a smoother transition to begin with. Now, I'm not trying to scare anybody away with this information, but if I can help anyone learn from my mistakes, it's worth sharing this tidbit. Remember I told you about all of those different databases housing all of that data? Well, that means across all of our data sets, and there are at least 5, there were sometimes as many property names for that one development. So the source of truth for the property names, bins, and addresses should have been translated from our previous software vendor rather than one of the other sources. So now the goal this week is to get those discrepancies cleaned up in the next few days and clear up that data with a new push into the production environment. No big deal. But I'm a realist. We'll be using our legacy systems until we've perfected this system. We've invested not only in ProLink, but in our team. We've built something together that's not going away. And I've joked with Kelly Insenius and Sarah Serpernat that we're co-parents now, okay? We're gonna watch this little data baby grow up and flourish into something awesome. And I'm not sure if you realize we were building up to this analogy in the beginning, but it's a heavy lift, but it's worth it. And my goal is for my team to get our data set up absolutely perfect in 2023 and blast into 2024 as confident as a toddler who's just learned how to run. We'll learn how to gather XML uploads monthly, which I've learned is not the norm. And I've got my fingers crossed for the easiest HUD data export yet. We've done the high-level property building data unit validation. Now we're on our way to the nuts and bolts of required inspections, compliance layer setup, affordability period verification, financial requirements, project setup. I'd love to have the system built, like completely built right now. But we also have the opportunity to put one more set of expertise on each property before we take that information for granted. And so that's the way it had to be. So I'll leave you with this quote from Maya Angelou. We're hoping for the best, prepared for the worst, and unsurprised by anything in between.
Thank you, Lenore. That was great.
Thanks.
That bleeds right into, I have a toddler at home, a 3-year-old. And actually I have 2 toddlers now because my 15-month-old just started walking. So I can relate to that, that analogy. So customer success then is we're like the pads that you have to lay all over your house to protect the bumps and the bruises and the major crashes when you start running for the first time. So, just a little glimpse into that, and something to consider way before even an implementation is what happens after you go live. The implementation for sure is like this daunting effort, right? It's this unknown. And the reason I will say that we decided to do this as a webinar topic is oftentimes when we're consulting with new agencies about ProLink, they want to talk to our customers about really what it took. That they want to talk to our customers about it, and they want to ask us, tell me really what is this going to take for my team. And so that's really what's inspiring a lot of what we're talking about here. And customer success is the ongoing partnership that we have with our agencies. So going live is a milestone for sure. From that point forward, though, it is a program that we are forming together. So, ProLink is, I think, known. If you speak to our clients, I think you will hear a lot about the support that we provide with our people. Technology, it's great. It's ever changing. It's like the fashion industry these days. There's always something new, right? But the people that support that technology, that's harder to replace. It's hard to replicate, and it really is the backbone of what we provide our clients, and it's the kind of parachute underneath us, right? So that's what we focus on in customer success, and making sure that we stay in sync with our agencies on your goals and what it's going to take to continue to have those successes year after year with ProLink. There will be times where staff changes over and additional training is needed. There's going to be times where, post go live, we review together that like a usage report and the areas of the system that are being utilized. And we're going to notice, oh, this piece that we thought was going to be utilized isn't there yet, and we'll need to focus on that. So that continues to evolve and happen through our customer success program into the future. That's our ideal goal as the vendor, is to see that partnership and collaboration continue with our agencies, because that's what allows us to continue to evolve both with our clients and as an industry, right, for affordable housing. So some of those things, just reiterating adoption, right? It's an evolving thing. So your initial adoption is one huge accomplishment, celebrations all around. But then, like Lenore said, okay, this is what my goals are for the year coming forward. And then next year, she's going to even be more excited about the next year's goals, because we'll have accomplished this year's, right? And it's this evolving thing, having that vision, really approaching things as a partnership with our clients is so important, and being ready for the investment it takes. I always refer to it as kind of like a gym membership. You get the membership, but then the additional things that you do, the classes that you take, the personal training you might get a couple of times a year, that's what really helps you get the biggest bang for your buck, right? And so that's what we try to continue to support and provide through customer success. And it's important that agencies recognize that that's a focus area ongoing as you use a system like ProLink. Okay, and then this is kind of our last topic. And I thought CJ could kind of start with giving us a little bit of a glimpse into how Rhode Island Housing was, that project with ProLinkHFA, that implementation was supported by executive leaders, and how those champions were selected within Rhode Island Housing. And then I'll wrap things up.
Yes, thank you. The executive sponsorship is everything on projects and programs whenever you're delivering these software applications across your business. You know, to have that backing and that support is critical. One, in starting it off, which, you know, everybody's always excited when they get to that point. It's kind of like, oh, we're breaking ground into this new development and we're putting that shovel in the dirt, and they're all standing there. But our executive team, our executive director took it personally. She brought together the department directors that were responsible for this particular area. And, you know, we were all in a room to make sure that we all agreed that, one, we were going to go forward and do this. And like Lenore said, you know, understand the impact to our organization and really supporting our organization through the hard lifting part when you have multiple things going on, both work and implementation. So that was done. We also put in place an executive meeting that took place every 5 weeks to bring them up to date on the schedule, any corrective changes or any changes that we were making along the way, if anything. And it was really important at that time to show them what a process map looked like and how much work people put into those process maps and what a schedule looked like and where we were on that schedule. And then finally, where we were on the budget. We were on the budget, we stayed on the budget, and we implemented on the budget. So along the way, there are changes that come in place, and we added a few API integrations, and we worked those into the actual rollout. And they were part of that, and also from the approval process, that went very smoothly. So there was no surprises at the end. There was no delays or unknown circumstances because they were part of that every 4 to 5 weeks along the way. There were very short meetings, 15 minutes, 3 slides one time. I think it was 4 slides the next time. So it wasn't like we were trying to, you know, have a, you know, a car commercial or something. It went really well, and they really appreciated it. And when the training came, they were also there and worked their schedules into the training. So they were in the training, some of the directors, and the executive director was at the opening of the training, which really, you know, kind of gave it that second part. It's like cutting the ribbon on a brand new building. So that's kind of how we implemented it at our side. And then, of course, you know, the champions were the people like Lenore from asset management. There were a few in each side of the divisions, and, you know, they really have to take that ball and run with it. I think, you know, Dee was big in part of being with them at the training so that they were all trained together. They were trained with their teams and, you know, really took that coalition of sponsorship into the future. Lenore, do you want to add anything to the championship side?
No, I think we nailed it. Thanks.
So, yeah, I think, you know, champions can look different in different organizations. Sometimes it's, in our experience, it can be a handful, and sometimes it's a little more than a handful. A couple representatives from each department, could be one representative from each department, but they're really the executive sponsors are that visible presence of, you know, reiterating the you know, it's worth the time and here's the light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing. The champions are the ones who are kind of in the weeds and actually doing the work alongside their team in some cases, And also reiterating, yeah, even though this is an effort, it's still worth it. And I'm starting to see that vision as well, and it is going to work. And so it's important to have both of those things, and mirroring and transcending those messages out to the rest of the organization is incredibly important. Honestly, if there is not visible executive leadership and sponsorship behind even the initial kind of beginnings of these projects, we bring that up to any agency we speak to. I mean, it's a huge red flag. It's just as important to ProLink that we see success and go live and, you know, positive adoption with our products. That's our goal. We don't want to start something we can't finish. And so we're very transparent in making sure it's very important for us to identify that, make sure it's in place, and to nurture it from that very beginning throughout the implementation, and then continue to check in on it throughout our partnership with you through that customer success period. So, so anyways, thank you, CJ and Lenore, for your thoughts. Is there anything else from anybody? Any like last remarks?
I actually have one, because
Sure.
I have to give kudos to Rhode Island. I mean, in all the implementations that I have done, I was very, very pleased and very surprised of the level of involvement that your senior directors, your champions have with the implementation. They were there in all the working sessions. They were there making decisions hand to hand with their business leads. They were there not as I'm the boss, but as a partner, as a peer, as how we're going to make this process better. And of course, if there were like a decision needed to be made, they made it on they were there, they knew. And that is what we're trying to look for, because they own it, all of them. They knew that this is a new system and that they needed to make it work, and they take accountability and ownership of it. And then they walk through, you know, their business, their staff through this. So kudos to you guys, because I know that it's super difficult to make time for this type of implementations, but you guys prioritize it and give it, you know, all you needed to do in order to make it a success.
Yeah.
It was fun too.
And it was fun, yes.
It was fun.
See, even Lenore with her crazy years, she just said it was fun. So silver lining, right? If she can do it, then you guys can too. Okay, awesome. Well, let me see. I think that's our last slide. So just to wrap things up, again, thank you so much for attending. We appreciate it. This is recorded. You can find it on our YouTube. We'll post it up there. You can share it with your organization. I hope it was inspiring. I hope it was informative. And it promotes conversation internally. A lot of the things we talked about, I know we have a number of our existing clients on here, so thank you for being a client of ours, for attending this and taking interest in what we're working on as an organization. We are ever evolving and improving our implementation process at ProLink. You know, we've done this a number of times now, but we never stop improving with the next one, kind of thing. So that will continue, and we try to bring those lessons learned and that honed in expertise back into adoption with our existing clients. So thank you guys for being with us, and I hope that there's some messages that you heard through here that also translate to adoption in your existing use of ProLinkHFA. So I look forward to talking with my clients and our MVRs on that subject going into the new month. And then for our next webinar in, I guess it will be March, we are going to be covering change management best practices. So that again will be the first Wednesday in March. We'll talk about our key elements of a successful change management strategy, set the stage, and then kind of talk about software adoption in general, going that distance with change management in mind. So thank you again, and have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you next time. And thank you again, CJ and Lenore. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.